My name is Jacqueline Johnson, and I currently serve as the Chief Operations Officer at Caring Health Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. And I'm also an adjunct faculty at Bay Path University and a part of this phenomenal HELOS program.
First and foremost, my name is Justin Monell. My pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm a second year in the HELOS program at Bay Path University. Before entering into the HELOS program, I spent a lot of my time in higher education, working in various functional areas of higher education, including the Office of Multicultural Affairs, academic advising, career coaching, and career education. And now I've transferred over to Guild Education, which is an educational technology company where I'm a training program manager.
I do work at a local community college in the Northeast area. I do work in the Office of Admissions, and I'm an admissions counselor. What do I do for work? So I'm just pretty much that person who goes out and really promotes higher education, really trying to get students involved in it. My professional interests kind of center around that, really. Before switching over into higher education, I had worked in corporate America for about 10 to 15 years, and I liked it, but slowly but surely I realized I wanted to really work with students in preparing them to step out into the workforce and stuff like that. I worked in recruitment, so what happened was I really just wanted to be in the space that really kind of promoted how students prepared to go out into the workforce, and it led me back to higher education and just really doing that. So I think it really helps me to work with students, and that's really kind of one of my biggest interests, just really not so much just a student affairs type thing, but just really working with them to maximize why they decided to come to higher education and just really trying to make that fit.
Currently, I am Dean of the Danbury campus for Nuggets Valley Community College. It's a 2-year institution based out of Connecticut. We're a 2-campus institution where the main campus is based out of Waterbury. I've been in my current role for about 3 years. I initially started as Associate Dean of the Danbury campus back in 2015. Overall, I've been in higher education for about 17 years. In terms of professional interests, they would include student affairs, student development, and any interaction that has to do with supporting student success.
It's Joel Johnson. I work in higher education in the Office of Admissions at Valparaiso University. I am a 20-year pro now in higher education, all in admissions, honestly. I did a few years on the high school side very early in my career, but predominantly a higher education professional. I'm married, a couple of kids, and I've enjoyed working in higher education, which has obviously kept me here this long. Looking forward to continue to grow as a professional.
Professionally speaking, it gives me a competitive advantage. I feel as though with what I'm learning in the program, it gives me a chance to be on the same level playing field with some of my contemporaries and some of my colleagues. Personally, it's been a personal goal for, I would say, since I got into higher education. Again, it's one of the goals that I've always aspired to in terms of, pushing students to go as far as they possibly can with their career and their education. And now I'm, taking my own advice and taking that next step.
At the time, one of the things that really kind of made that switch for me is I was actually a program director for a high school mentoring program, and I got a chance to travel pretty much all over the country, and I got a chance to see a lot of higher education institutions and really get a chance to touch base with higher education leadership. And very quickly I realized a lot of those leaders had that doctorate degree. And I also knew I wanted that transferable degree as well. At the time I had already had a master's degree, and I knew I wanted something that was transferable no matter where I went with higher education, because I had started thinking about it. I knew I wanted that. And I also knew very quickly the terminal degree was probably where I wanted to go with it. I think it provided just the best opportunity to kind of to do a lot of things and to really work with it. And I just saw and just speaking with a lot of the presidents and vice presidents at institutions, that was a commonality that I saw.
Doing my research related to why I wanted to pursue a terminal degree or a doctoral degree, it was more so self-motivating. So I understand less than 1% of the population of Latinx folks hold a terminal degree or an EdD or a PhD. So for me, it was having the ability to change the narrative and increase that specific number. And then also more selfish reasons, I want to be the first person within my family to hold that doctoral degree. And also show a sense of representation for folks that are thinking about it, that may look like me or shares common experiences, to serve as a motivating factor for them in pursuing their degree as well.
This program happened to drop in my lap. One year I was I was part of the Bay Path graduation, and I ran into somebody and I was sharing my interest and really trying to think about merging the role of what I do in operations at the health center and also thinking about this educational platform that I really wanted to enter. And so it came up. I did some work, I did some research around this, and learning about it being sort of the pioneer in the world of thinking about higher education and its link to organizational studies, it just felt like a very perfect world for me. And so that really became the push for me to go for the doctoral program. I wanted to be a part of the inaugural cohort, and here I am, and I couldn't be any more happy to be in my final year, not because it's a final year, but to actually see the evolution that I've gone on under as a student, as a human, and as a friend and a community member, and as a professional, having taken part in this program.
Yeah, so for me, it was the ability to have access to not be grounded in an in-person doctoral experience. And also the program's focused on leadership and organizational change. And my focus specifically in my interest in the program was looking at the systemic implications of change and how organizations have the ability to effectively change through leadership, through reflection, and through potential organizational redesign. So for me, this program allowed for that learning to take place. And now in year 2, I'm seeing everything to come together and catching those particular points where, oh, the organization should be doing this to improve. So for me, I wanted to create that systemic understanding of how to impact change through organizations, whether they're in higher education or not.
Just think the fact that I think it started out as an idea and kind of a little bit of a hope, like, I think I can do this, or I hope I can get through the doctoral program. And now entering my 3rd year, I'm doing it. You know what I mean? So I think that that's a big surprise for me, and that it's challenging in its ways, but it's doable. And I'm like, okay, I get it. And you know what, maybe I am designed for this. So I think that that's been a surprise.
First would be that I actually know a lot of the content. I just didn't know what the terminology would be for that. And I think it just has to do with my years of experience in higher education. There's a lot of aha moments in terms of, I've done that before. I understand what that process is.
The design, I think, the most surprised me because typically when I was looking at other doctoral programs, the level of intentionality with building community through coursework, especially coursework that's so rapid like this one, I just wasn't expecting. And so it's really surprised me, and it's just really been an honor to be a part of a program that its design is so intentional every single piece of the way.
So for me, again, it's that sense of, the sense of community, not only amongst the staff, but also for the students. So the community of practice courses, the cohort in general, or even students that are a year ahead of us. Having the ability to create that sense of connection for me is key, but then also having a vested interest from faculty. So faculty really do care about each student and the relationship that they're cultivating over the time that they're in the program. In addition to that 8-week course cycle, I know it goes really fast, but I like the speed and pace so far in accomplishing that dissertation phase or dissertation process towards the end.
It has to be the community of practices. The community of practice, so I mentioned we are a cohort group. But within the cohort, we have smaller cohorts that in our first year is called your community of practice, or you'll hear us say COP. And that's a group of about 4 or 5 people where we are now, we are meeting once a month for about, I think, 8 of the 12 months a year. And so with that comes out of that is that we form different ways of communicating. My group, we do a lot of texting. And again, that's texting to, hey, assignment is due, hey, get this done, a funny meme or whatever. And I heard other COPs, they'll do like Facebook connections, but everybody has a different way of connecting. But I think that kind of extra connection has really been it's the best thing about Helos. I think it's what, again, has helped us all keep going, because we all hit a wall at some point, and having people that are cheering you on, that are, pulling you along at times, it's really great.
To me personally, I don't think there's some secret sauce to it. I think you have to be open to the idea of where you are in the program and adapt accordingly, and always be willing to touch base with your approach. But I think how I do it is, I think I'm going to be very honest with you, as a working doctoral student, sometimes work has to come first. It does, but it sounds weird, but I kind of barter with myself a little bit, where it's like, okay, Jen, if you're going to take tonight off to do things, you have to be able to find time in your schedule somewhere else to make up for that. You know what I mean? And I think that I'm not the person who touches doctoral work every night. That's just not what's going to work for me. But I do dedicate weekly time to it, where I do say, okay, these are the days where I really want to focus on it, because I didn't focus on it that much.
Time management is probably the most important thing that I've learned and I've had to adjust to from the program. I hit the proverbial wall very early on, where I wasn't organized, and I thought, I can just go with the flow with the program, and I realized that was the wrong perspective to take. So I think for me, what worked best is, setting aside time that I know I'm going to work, start to finish, give myself a hard deadline, and to have everything done by a certain time. So time management is probably the most important thing I've done so far.
When I entered this program, whether it was with a partner, whether it was with my family, whether it was with my friends, I made it really clear that this was just a moment of time that I needed for myself. I needed to understand, and I needed to feel the pressure. I needed to feel what it was like to immerse myself at this level of thinking and application. And so the demand wasn't so scary, or hasn't been as scary, because I've been able to set my boundaries right up front, that I needed this time. And I was going to own that and respect that. This is what I applied for, and this is what I set out. Now, the other thing I would say is, for anyone who's interested in the program, or anyone who's in the program and is really thinking about, like, how do I balance work and how do I balance maybe family and school? It is completely possible. I promise you, I have a phenomenal family. I have a phenomenal organization that I work for. And the more transparent you can be with them, again, up front, I think those systems of support are able to support you through the process. And so the demand doesn't feel like you have to choose one over the other. And then recognizing that those systems are sacrificing less time with you during the process. And that's okay, because, you get to all celebrate at the end something that becomes a part of everyone's sort of reality.
Yeah, so the faculty, like I mentioned before, have a vested interest in getting to know students, making that one-on-one connection. And so far, it's been great. Each faculty member that I have had the ability to take their course has been really present for students, really understanding, and I continue to establish or reestablish connections with faculty throughout the 8-week periods.
The faculty are, I would say, very supportive, first of all. We are all working professionals in this program. Many of us are parents as well, and parents of everything from very young children to adult children. And I think that what I've appreciated is that the faculty recognize that when we have had to reach out because life is just in the way or whatever, overwhelmed by our work and our home life and Helos, they've been very understanding and supportive. They'll allow us, okay, here, let me give you extra time here, let me know what you need. And so that's been very appreciative, that they understand that our desire to finish this program is very real, but again, life happens along the way. And I appreciate that they are so, well, this program should come before everything else. And while it does remain high on our list of priorities, they're human, and they recognize that some flexibility is beneficial along the way. So I definitely appreciate that about the faculty.
I think in some ways they're like, for me personally, I think they are my life raft in some ways. I think that they are just as diverse as the faculty. I think that everybody is driven in some type of way, shape, or form. And I think they offer insight into things, which I think is so important. And I think for me, I'm going to be honest, I don't think we're best friends with everybody, but I think that you respect the way that people work, or at least I do. And I think that for me, just sometimes watching how they approach things helps me to look back at my work and say, oh, wait a minute, and I never thought of it that way, or I didn't go as in depth as I want to. So I think in a lot of ways, they are teachers in some ways for me, because they help me to look at things a little bit different, and they reinforce some things. And then I just also think that they're just diverse in just how they are as people. Like, some people you can go to and they'll sit and talk with you for hours, and then other people are like, I don't have time for this. And I think that's important, because I think learning how to manage all those different people are really important.
Yeah, so for me, it's understanding that why. So I had my interview with Dr. Ducka, and I went into that interview with an understanding of why am I pursuing this? And for me, it was going to change the narrative and to increase the overall percentage of Latinx folks with terminal degrees. So for me, I hold on to that piece of why tightly each and every course, each and every week, each and every day, to understand that those small wins are going to pay off long term. And I think to hold on to that why throughout year 1, year 2, and year 3, and to make it to graduation to say, I did this particularly because I started with this why. And then for me, it's changing that narrative, and I hold on to that each class, each cycle, and each year. So for me, it's seeing that light at the end of the tunnel, and having the ability to focus in and hone in on that why.
I would make sure that this is something that you really want to get into. I would evaluate where you are in your life professionally and personally, and be prepared to dedicate as much time as you can to this. This is a program that, as I mentioned earlier, I took lightly in terms of not being prepared with what the rigors would be. So there would be an adjustment period, but I think if you're open to, understanding what that adjustment period was like and seeing what works for you, is probably the key to get ahead of the game.
I would say to any student who's looking for a doctoral program where you are going to be fully supported from your faculty, you are going to learn to be a student and not have to show up as being the expert in something. This is a program for you. If you're learning to build organizational capacity, where you're applying what you're learning as a leader in the HELOS program, and the next day able to apply it in your day-to-day work, and really identify a problem that is salient to your organization and work through that with a group of people, this is the perfect program for you. This is also a very rare program because it's one of its first of its kind. And so take the opportunity to really think about it. I will always be a massive fan of this program, and not because I'm in it and not because anyone told me to say this. It has literally transformed who I am. I came into the program being very sort of clear in my identity as an academic, as a professional, and I will be walking away even stronger given the level of intentionality around the curriculum and the love that this program really, really bolsters. So